Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including Tesla's new batteries shipping soon, the Robotaxi spotted in the wild, and more, so let's get into it, and a special thanks to Recurrent for sponsoring this video. First up today, Tesla is currently working toward their goal of setting a new record for deliveries in Q4 of this year. The automaker is aiming to meet its guidance for delivering 515,000 vehicles in the quarter, which would be their biggest Q4 of all time. It is currently unclear whether the company will be able to reach that goal, and they are putting some big incentives back into effect in order to drive sales. Over in Europe, Tesla has just resumed a very lucrative incentive for new customers, free supercharging. Customers who order and take delivery of any new vehicle in Europe by the end of the year will receive a full year of free supercharging. Depending on how you choose to charge your vehicle regularly, this could lead to some huge savings. If you decide to only supercharge rather than ever charging at home during that year, you could save thousands in electricity and would essentially get free mileage during that time. In addition, Tesla is also offering some steep discounts off the price of their vehicles there. For example, in Germany, Tesla is offering discounts of up to 6,000 euros off the price of this vehicle. This is one of the steepest discounts we've seen the automaker give to customers, and if you live in Europe, it makes it a really great time to buy a new vehicle. If Tesla wants to hit those sales numbers, then it's really important they draw more sales from the European market. Their foothold in that continent has been slipping as of late, with current data suggesting that Tesla might fall 85,000 vehicle deliveries short of last year. In Germany in particular, Tesla has seen sales drop by as much as 42% in the first half of the year. Discounts and incentives like these are a great way to drive sales, and this in particular is a great value. Free supercharging can save drivers a ton of money over time, and it really sweetens the deal for the first year of ownership. Only time will tell what kind of impact this will have on Tesla's sales for the rest of the year over in Europe, and if they can overcome their current slump. EV competition is much fiercer in Europe than it is in the United States, so they have to try even harder in order to come out ahead in that market. Next up today, Tesla is constantly working on implementing the latest battery tech into their vehicle lineup. Some feel that they don't really do this because they don't see tons of battery updates all the time, but the big reason they can't shift as quickly as some may prefer is due to scale. They make more EVs than anybody else, and especially ship more battery capacity than anybody else, so upgrading cells is a big undertaking. Newer batteries can offer significantly better range to customers via things like capacity and efficiency, alongside faster charge times as well. Tesla is currently working on some big advancements in battery tech, like dry cathode designs and alternative chemistries, but while that work is underway, their vehicles are also seeing incremental changes every few years. The latest reports here are saying that Tesla is about to ship new battery packs in the Model Y and 3. As it stands right now, rear-wheel drive Tesla vehicles in Europe and Asia actually use a battery pack designed by one of the company's biggest rivals, BYD. These BYD Blade battery packs were a huge advancement for the Chinese battery maker turned automaker, and have been appearing in some Tesla vehicles since 2021. Current rumors suggest that soon these packs will be replaced by an updated design made by one of Tesla's biggest collaborators, CATL. The new LFP battery pack should see a 6% increase in capacity from 60.1 kilowatt hours to 62.5. It features an approximate 4% jump in power, which is small, but will also bring improved charging performance. Despite these capacity gains, this new battery will be about 44 pounds lighter than before, which in tandem with these other features should lead to better range. This could enable them to ship a better version of these cars with these improvements, but there is a chance that they could software lock that extra range to match other vehicles that ship with different battery packs right now. Hopefully they will ship this new pack and boost its range at the same time though. There's also some speculation regarding some changes that we could see to the underlying battery chemistry. This battery, like the one before, is made using the lithium iron phosphate chemistry. Those batteries have lower density than other chemistries and don't work as well in extreme temperatures, but make up for it in terms of cost and being able to charge regularly to 100% without causing further degradation. On top of these reports, some believe these new batteries might see the inclusion of manganese into their composition. This element is great for improving energy density and low temperature performance, but we're not sure if it will appear in these new cells. CATL is at the forefront of battery chemistry and have introduced some incredible LFP-based battery cells, so maybe Tesla is pushing forward with some of this technology here. As it stands right now, it seems like these battery cells will only appear in vehicles to be sold in Europe and Asia. North America has strong tariffs in place against Chinese-made batteries and cells, so it's very unlikely it would make its way over. Instead, Tesla is likely working on an alternative battery solution for the North American market that uses more domestically sourced materials. With that said, a lot is expected to change come 2025 with the new administration. Most expect the EV tax credit to disappear entirely, and if we look back at the impact that credit has had on Tesla's lineup, it actually led to the introduction of the rear-wheel drive long-range Model 3 and Y, which qualified for the tax credit, and led to the elimination of the true standard-range rear-wheel drive LFP Model 3. That's because that pack was sourced from CATL in China. If things change for the tax credit and these tariffs, we could instead see Tesla reintroducing this car in the US with a better and cheaper battery pack supplied by CATL. At the end of the day, this is a small change, but it's always great to see Tesla improving their vehicles. As a customer as well, it's great to know that even though your performance may only be increased by 4 or 6%, you have the latest and greatest battery tech available at scale. So, should you wait? Well, if you're in an Asian or European country, the Model Y refresh is likely right around the corner, so it may be worth waiting both for that and this new battery pack at the same time. In the United States, however, it seems it will be quite some time adjusting to new policy before we'd actually see this ship. Next up, let's talk about today's sponsor, Recurrent. Recurrent is a free online platform designed by a team of battery scientists to analyze the range and health of your EV battery over time. Drivers can easily connect their car to get the latest vehicle insights into the battery history and an estimate of its overall health. Tesla owners also have access to their beta battery health module, which only collects data while you are charging, removing the phantom drain that other battery health services create. They have a huge data set of around 25,000 vehicles with more than 50 makes and models across all 50 states. Here's an example report of a 2023 Model Y, which lays out the car's expected range, real-world range, how much time is left on the warranty, and more. With Recurrent, EV owners make more money by showing that their battery is still going strong, and large auto auctions have found that including their vehicle insights increased the average sale price by $1,400. If you are looking to buy your first EV, then you can check the range, battery, and tax credit eligibility on tens of thousands of vehicles, all for free. Location data is never collected, personal data is never shared without your consent, and battery information is handled securely with end-to-end encryption. With Recurrent, we can buy, drive, and sell electric vehicles positively, so check them out by clicking the link in the description below. Next up today, even though Tesla unveiled the Cybercab to the world last month, we don't know how long it will be before we see it available to summon on public roads. They had a number of prototypes running fully autonomously around the Warner Brothers studio lot, providing an impressive look at the future to people that were there. But of course, now we await the real developments. The first and most important development obviously comes in the software that needs to deliver a functional robotaxi that doesn't require a steering wheel or pedals. Tesla has been clear that their approach doesn't just involve this dedicated car. Instead, Model 3s and Ys today will become robotaxis. But for many, they're excited to see this future, purpose-built car come to market. As such, any development is exciting there, like spotting Tesla out with the robotaxi somewhat in the wild. A great video was posted on X of the Cybercab driving around Tesla's Giga, Texas, and this is especially cool to see since it marks our first time seeing this outside of Warner Brothers. There is still a lot of training that needs to be done on these cars, and regulators will likely need a lot of assurance before they are allowed to operate freely. That ultimately means that Tesla will have to continue their testing of these vehicles on private roads, and we're seeing that process right now. In this video, it's a lot easier to see the subtle gold coloring of this vehicle than it was in a lot of the event footage or if you were at that event itself. In the video, we see it drive around the grounds and then successfully pull up to and stop at a gate, waiting for the arm to go up. While the Cybercab is designed to charge entirely wirelessly with a wireless charging pad, reports from employees have said that there is actually a hidden NACS port in the trunk. This would enable them to easily charge these prototypes with existing infrastructure, and people have been trying to get videos of this detail, now that the robotaxi is being put on display in multiple areas. So that further raises the question, how is this robotaxi driving right now? Is this driving autonomously around Giga, Texas with an engineer choosing its route? Or is there some sort of backup steering wheel situation for testing that may be temporarily installed, like that charge port? Obviously, this driving situation is something FSD could handle today with ease, so it very much could be driving itself here, likely on V13 of Tesla's FSD software. But I would be very curious what they're doing here. Once this comes to market, this vehicle will be produced out of Giga, Texas, so there's a lot of testing to be done. After the software comes the engineering of this vehicle itself, how it drives, how it quote-unquote handles, and how well it interacts with the software itself. It will be extremely interesting to see, especially since we're seeing robotaxis from competitors expanding. Over at Waymo, they're removing the waitlist for their robotaxis in Los Angeles. Now anybody in LA can use the Waymo One app to hail a ride throughout 80 square miles of LA. and this is the largest city where Waymo has become available. Waymo's co-CEO said, quote, "Now is an exciting time to welcome everyone in Los Angeles along for the ride. Our service has matured quickly, and our riders are embracing the many benefits of fully autonomous driving. We're so grateful to all of our first riders in LA, and we can't wait to serve more riders soon." Waymo's approach is quite different than Tesla's, but obviously they are beating them to the punch with the service itself. And now, so is Zoox. Zoox has begun expanding to San Francisco, where it will begin offering driverless rides, and many in the area have seen these vehicles out driving and testing. The Zoox Robotaxi is an entirely purpose-built vehicle, instead of a retrofitted one, so it's especially crazy and cool to see out in the wild. Zoox has offered rides already in areas like Foster City, California, and Las Vegas, but these rides have been fairly limited with geofenced areas and maximum speeds. Now they have, quote, begun testing its robotaxis in San Francisco before offering driverless rides to those local residents. Zoox co-founder and CTO Jesse Levinson said, quote, "Zoox is the only company driving a purpose-built robotaxi on public roads without traditional manual controls. This expansion marks our third city for our robotaxi operations, following Foster City and Las Vegas. We've rigorously tested and validated our AI stack in multiple cities over the last 7 years in preparation for the deployment of our robotaxi fleet. From day one, our robotaxis will be leveraging a deep history and understanding of this area." This company is owned by Amazon, so it's particularly interesting to see this expansion. This is very exciting, especially since, as they mentioned, it's a purpose-built robotaxi without traditional manual controls, and that gets us much closer to Tesla's approach. Still, with each of these robotaxis, though, they utilize many sensors like LiDAR, which add cost and limit these services to pre-HD mapped areas. For Tesla, their approach is a learning AI that can adapt to any situation, and in theory, could drive anywhere. At launch, I do expect Tesla's own service to look a lot like Waymo and Zoox's offerings, becoming available in specific areas with certain speed restrictions and more. But long term, if things go according to plan, it should look a lot different. It's one of those areas where they are, quote, late to offering this service, but when it comes, it could be much better than the competition. Of course, time will tell, and they still have a long way forward. The cool thing, though, is that they aren't fully waiting on the robotaxi. They claim they can make this fully functional on existing Model Ys and 3s. And even if they find something like a front bumper camera is required to launch unsupervised FSD that competes, that should be a fairly easy retrofit. There's a lot to see here into the future, but it's exciting to spot the robotaxi outside of a movie studio for the first time. There's certainly still a lot of testing to be done before this comes to fruition, but it's very promising to see these cars fully unveiled and handling new roads and traffic configurations. Next up today, Tesla has always been at the forefront of EV technology as a whole, not just with batteries, but particularly in the field of fast charging. Other fast chargers and plug types are out there, but none have ever hit the same standard of quality that Tesla did with their superchargers and the NACS charge port. NACS stands for the North American Charging Standard, which, when they first announced this name, was anything but the standard. Tesla invented this plug type for their own cars, and for many years was the only company that used it. Still, Tesla had grand ambitions for that plug and opened up the design to allow other companies to use it for their own vehicles. It took a while, but eventually other companies started adopting the NACS standard. Ford was the first company to announce that they would adopt the NACS plug, and soon after, other automakers in North America started to follow suit. Now, almost every major automaker has announced that they will be integrating NACS into their vehicles, and with that would gain easy access to the Tesla supercharger network. Since then, those brands have slowly been gaining access to those chargers, although all with adapters since none have started installing NACS ports directly into their vehicles. This rollout has been smooth so far, but it seems like Tesla isn't quite done revolutionizing the whole EV industry. The company has just shown off a new piece of technology that they hope will unite the entire auto industry under a new standard, just like they did with NACS. They just unveiled the Low Voltage Connector Standard, or LVCS, which they hope will be the next step forward for car electrical systems. Tesla outlines the potential utility of this connector in a blog post on their website. According to them, the increasing complexity of car electrical systems has led to a system where a single car might have 200 unique connections. This makes the car much more complex to design and ultimately more expensive to produce. The innovation of LVCS is to reduce the total number of connection types down to just 6, which they claim will cover over 90% of typical electrical needs. This system is built off of the same foundation as what the automaker designed for the Cybertruck. The system works by dropping the necessary electrical current by a quarter while still delivering the same power. This system is much more efficient than other designs and allows for the electrical system to use less power overall and perform more reliably. Much like they did with NACS, Tesla has once again decided to open up this design for the industry to use at large. This could prove to be a big step in the field of vehicle design, and bringing all manufacturers over to one standard could have a huge impact. These connectors are seemingly much more efficient than prior designs and could do a lot to reduce costs and improve reliability. We'll have to see whether any other automaker chooses to adopt this standard and how much of an impact it will actually have. Still, it's very cool to see Tesla continuing to support the industry at large by releasing their designs to be used in ways like this. This time it seems like they're much further ahead of when they would expect this adoption to actually occur. When they announced NACS, it was only a matter of months before we saw automakers adopting it. In this case, it seems like it could be quite some time, especially since it seems like Tesla's vehicles as a whole don't all use this setup. Next up today, the updated Model 3 has been out for a while now, and it was immediately clear that this vehicle was a big step up over its predecessor. It took a little while longer for the performance trim of that vehicle to arrive, and it was an even bigger step forward than most had anticipated. Now, with a little extra time since its release, in-depth reviews are starting to come out for that car, and the results are really something to behold. Edmonds just published their full review of the new Performance Model 3, and put simply, it's a glowing review that gives us a lot of insight into that car and just how big of an improvement it really is. They broke this car down based on a number of different categories and put it up against some industry-leading performance vehicles to see how it compared. First up is the most important category for this particular vehicle, its performance. Tesla estimates that this vehicle can hit 0 to 60 in just 2.9 seconds, and Edmonds reported a 3-second time in their own tests. That's a remarkable degree of acceleration, and they remark that most vehicles with comparable levels of acceleration cost over twice as much. They specifically compare it to the likes of the Porsche 911 Carrera 4 GTS and the Lamborghini Huracan STO, cars that cost $172,700 and $344,778 respectively. For comparison, the Performance Model 3 currently costs $54,990 and is eligible for the $7,500 EV tax credit. That's a truly insane amount of performance packed into a vehicle that, while still pricey to many, is ultimately still very within reach, especially compared to all of those previously mentioned supercars. Further on the performance side, they outlined the increased braking power, firmer steering and control, improved suspension, and excellent overall drivability. They gave its performance a cumulative 9 out of 10, and they sum it up clearly, saying, calling a Model 3 performance fast sells it short. Performance wasn't the only place that this car saw some great improvements, though. The seats were completely redesigned and represent another major way that this car is different from both the previous performance model and the base Model 3. The reviewer called them quite comfortable, and the added perforations and ventilation make them a great upgrade over before. Ride comfort is a little worse than the standard model because of the more rigid body and suspension, but still exemplary overall. Much like the base model, the real standout here is the overall vehicle noise and vibration. Tesla has done so much to minimize road noise from outside, and it's really a phenomenal improvement in comfort over pretty much every other car on the market. The biggest criticisms that they had of this vehicle ultimately had to do with some features that are somewhat central to Tesla's entire design process. First, as you might expect, is one of Tesla's most controversial design choices, the removal of the stalks for shifting and turn signals. It's a big adjustment from how most people have driven for their entire adult lives, and naturally, not everyone is going to like it. This ultimately ties into Tesla's ethos of wanting to remove the need for as much user input as possible in order to reduce the potential for error on the road. I've been driving the refreshed Model 3 for a while now, and now I'm driving the performance model. And I had the Model S before that with this same turn signal configuration. So I've had time to get used to it, and I have to say I'm very much used to it. There are some situations where it just doesn't make sense, especially when the wheel is turned over. But overall, I actually prefer this. Their other major gripe is another purposeful decision by Tesla, and that is the exclusion of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto from their vehicles. A lot of users love these features and hate not being able to use them in a Tesla, but ultimately the automaker believes strongly in their own user interface and doesn't want to compromise that by bringing in outside interfaces. It is undoubtedly frustrating to some people, but again, this is a Tesla design choice that you either appreciate or don't, but it doesn't undermine the strengths of this vehicle as a whole. They go on to praise the overall build quality, range, and value that this car brings to the table. Tesla's VP of Vehicle Engineering, Lars Moravi, posted a thank you on X to Edmonds for their kind review and actually cleared up a misconception that they had in their time with the car. In the review, Edmonds writes that the Performance Model 3 does not have dual-zone climate controls, which is inaccurate. Lars writes, quote, "Heads up, all Model 3s have dual zone climate control. It comes on when both front seats are occupied. Then the control will pop up. We do this for efficiency. Every watt hour matters." This is an interesting look into Tesla's design process and goes to show how much thought and care is put into their vehicles and their efficiency. At the end of the day, one thing is clear: the performance Model 3 is really an exceptional car, and I second everything that they said in this review. Everything they talk about from a positive perspective is absolutely there, and you absolutely notice it within this car. When it comes to the negatives, I also agree with most of them as well, except for CarPlay, which is something that I don't miss at this point. This performance model takes the updated Model 3 as a base and adds even more power and refinement to what was already a great vehicle. Reviews like this just go to show how much of a step forward this car is, not just for Tesla, but for the whole EV industry, and it's really good to see. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see a full breakdown of Tesla versus BYD, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.